Newman, Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM, AM 630. WMAL.
6:37 on the Morning Majority, and I want to know what's going on around the world, and I want a quick update. I go to WMAL.com. But right after that, I go to RealClearPolitics.com because I really love the way they sort of encapsulate everything that's going on in the political world. You get all the latest polls and all of that stuff. And right now we have on the line the executive editor of RealClearPolitics.com. And by the way, the author of a new ebook called Election 2012, The Battle Begins. We have Tom Bevan on the line. Hey, Tom, how are you?
Hey, Brian, good to be with you.
Hey, it's always good to have you on the show. Look, I think we can all agree that the polls indicate that this is the time of Newt. I mean, everything seems to be going very well. And I remember he was on this show. When was that he was on the show, Brian? And we asked him, when's your campaign going to take off? It doesn't look like there's some real concerns about you. And, man, he said, it's going to come my way. You just sit back and watch. And he was right. What's going on with Newt Gingrich, and why is there such a surge in your mind, Tom?
Well, in some respects, it's because he's the last man standing. The Republican electorate has been sort of searching around for the anti-Romney candidate, and have finally settled on. Seems to have settled on Newt. He seemed like a very unlikely choice, not only because of the way his campaign. I mean, we go through this in the ebook. The disastrous rollout of his campaign, started in May by going on Meet the Press and calling Paul Ryan's Medicare plan right-wing social engineering, and it imploded from there. But also because he's sort of he's an older generation of Republican. I mean, and of all the candidates that were out there, he wasn't sort of the new, fresh, interesting person in the race. But again, through Rick Perry's stumbles and Herman Cain's stumbles, the candidates have fallen away. And here you have Newt Gingrich, the sort of last man standing, if you will, in part because of the debate performances. I mean, they've really sustained his campaign. When he was left for dead, they are what sustained him through to the point where now people are looking at him sort of with new eyes and saying, well, Newt has a lot of positive qualities. I mean, he is the intellectual candidate. He is someone who could stand on the debate stage with Obama and go toe-to-toe. So I think it's look, we're still 5 weeks away from the vote, and in this environment, that's an eternity. So we'll see what happens.
Well, and one of the things that has happened,
pretty well.
One of the things that has happened is that the New Hampshire Union leader has endorsed him, and New Hampshire is a state where Romney, according to all the polls, is expected to romp over the rest of the field. How much does that play into it?
But again, polls at this point are, as we get closer to the actual vote, they become more meaningful. But still, I mean, again, 5 weeks is a long time, and we've seen folks rise and fall in the national polls in a matter of 3 weeks. Right. I mean, Herman Cain went from an asterisk to the front runner. I mean, Newt's done the same thing in about 3 weeks. So there's no saying that someone could not take off in New Hampshire. Now, I don't know that what's interesting about the New Hampshire Union leader endorsement is it's less. I mean, it's significant for New Hampshire, but I think it's more significant because it does sort of provide and cement Newt's position as the anti-Romney alternative. It may benefit him actually more beyond New Hampshire than in New Hampshire, but we'll see what happens. I mean, typically how the New Hampshire Union leader does this is they don't. I mean, it's pretty strange for a newspaper to endorse, this early in the contest, and they're going to run a series of endorsements and editorials over the course of the next 5 weeks, right up until the vote, that are all heavily, in Newt's favor and railing against the other candidates. And in particular, I mean, they have a problem with Romney. That's the other thing too is, when people look at that and they say, Mitt Romney's been running for president for 5 years. He was the governor of the next door state. Why does the biggest, most conservative paper in New Hampshire, why are they not endorsing Mitt Romney? Right. And that's a question mark that I think will linger.
Here's my question for you when it comes to Romney. He's, he can get like 25%. He can never break through 30%, when it comes to polling numbers. Right. If he's going to win, he's going to have to take some votes away from Rick Perry and from Herman Cain, Michelle Bachmann. How is he likely to get those votes from those candidates? People who support the Cains and the Perrys and even maybe Rick Santorum. Which candidate do you think he can actually take some support away from?
Well, it's a great point. It's one that I've been saying for a while now, which is, where are those, the additional Romney votes going to come from? Even as the field thins, if, Santorum and Bachmann say they don't perform well in Iowa and they drop out, you would not expect that their supporters would flow to Romney.
That's
You'd expect them to flow to the anti-Romney candidate, whoever that is. So the longer this contest goes on and the more candidates that drop out, the more you should see the anti-Romney vote consolidate behind one candidate. I mean, for Romney's folks, that's why I think they have to, despite this air that they've got on of confidence that, they're running against a bunch of Lilliputians and amidst the clear choice, I think that privately they're concerned because he does have this ceiling. I mean, there's still 17 to 20, 22% undecideds, don't knows out there, and I think the Romney folks are hoping that over time those are the folks who will flow their way. Clearly in New Hampshire, they're banking on the fact that it's an open primary, so independents are a huge block of voters there. Democrats will be able to cross over and vote in the Republican primary. I think they're counting on that being fueling a New Hampshire win there, which they hope will then spill over into these other states. So they're not without strategy and hope. But to your point, it doesn't seem obvious where those additional Romney votes are going to come from that are going to give him what he needs to win the nomination.
Well, just one other thought, and that I watched some tape of Newt that's on the web this morning, and one of the things I noticed is him being a lot warmer and open and even occasionally really funny, and that's something that I didn't expect to see from the Newt that I've always known and covered, so it'd be interesting. Hey, listen, Tom, we're out of time, but thank you so much for joining us here on The Morning Majority.